Hey everyone, today I want to talk about the pain and frustration that many of us face. The kind that seems to never end. Have you ever felt trapped in a never-ending cycle of discouragement? That feeling that no matter what you try, everything seems to crumble around you? I know how it feels. I've been there. Days drag on, and each morning becomes a new challenge. You wake up, but the energy just isn't there. The expectations of the world seem overwhelming. And the voices around you. Why don't you do something with your life? You need to be stronger. It's as if people don't see the battle you're fighting inside yourself. I know it feels like the struggle never ends, like you're trapped in a maze, and around every corner, it all looks the same. You strive, but nothing changes. And this is a reality that many of us know well. For some, life flows smoothly. Those friends who land dream jobs, take amazing trips, seem to have it all figured out. Meanwhile, you wonder, what about me? I sent out resumes, sought opportunities, but everything seemed like a futile effort. It felt like I was born to lose. The world demands what we should be and never show, and how we should feel. It's hard to listen to the whispers and murmurs of people inside the house. Look how lazy he is. These words cut like knives, deep and cruel, as if my suffering were invisible, as if I were trapped in a glass box, unable to escape while the world kept turning. And you perhaps are feeling this now. The feeling of being underestimated, of carrying a weight that no one seems to see. But know that I understand. This loneliness is not just physical. It penetrates the soul. The looks, the laughter, the disguised jokes, each one reinforced the belief that I didn't belong. What hurts most is that, even surrounded by people, you can feel completely alone. It was like I was fighting an endless battle. And with each defeat, a part of me shattered. The voice in my head insisted that I was weak, that I couldn't keep up with others. The criticism became a mantra I couldn't silence. The falseness of social media, where everyone seems happy and prosperous. Does it say more about me or about others? Who is being more sincere in not accepting these social impositions? Sentences you've heard since childhood. You must study and graduate, then get a good job, buy a good house, and get married. Have a dream life with everyone smiling at the breakfast table. Does it take a lot of courage to not want this dream, or to understand that this life is a fairy tale? Maybe that's why people like us go through these problems. We're a piece that doesn't fit in the social puzzle. But in the midst of all this, I learned something important. It's in our fragility that we find strength. It's in vulnerability that we can seek true connection. And even if the journey is long, we are not alone. If you feel this way, know that you're not the only one. We're in this together. Let's explore this pain and find the path to the light. I went to doctors, took medication, did therapy, but nothing seemed to work. It was like I was stuck in a loop, going around in circles. And this feeling, this invisible prison, became more and more claustrophobic. Was I sabotaging myself? This question tormented me. Why, when I finally had an opportunity, did something always stop me from taking advantage of it? It was as if an invisible force pulled me down every time I tried to go up. Every time I failed, a part of me died. I felt like a ghost, wandering among the living, without truly belonging anywhere. The conversations I heard about success and happiness seemed to echo in an abyss, distant and unattainable. Looking in the mirror became a painful task. The reflection I saw was no longer what I used to believe it was. It was a distorted image, a shadow of what I used to be. There were days when I couldn't get out of bed. The weight of self-blame was overwhelming. I spent days lying down, barely eating, my hygiene was poor. My family members no longer spoke to me. I spent whole weeks without leaving my room. I saw myself there, a soulless body, surrounded by memories of better days. The feeling of failure intensified each day. Why can't you do it? Why aren't you enough? These voices pounded in my head like a never-ending drum. And even when I tried to smile, the smile didn't reach my eyes. It was as if I were just playing a role, trying to convince others that I was okay, when in reality, I was falling apart inside. It was a constant battle. The mirror reflected not only my face, but all my fears, insecurities, and the feeling that I would never be who I really wanted to be. One day I woke up, sat on the bed, tried to tie my shoes, approached the exit door. My hands touched the doorknob, but I hesitated. It was as if the door were locked by fear. While friends were living their lives, I was trapped in a cycle of uncertainty, sinking into negative thoughts. Every day, it became harder to leave the house. I hesitated, afraid of what the world out there might offer me. But even in the darkness, there is always a light. This light may seem almost extinguished, but it's there, waiting to be reignited. It's a flicker that, if you allow it, can grow. After an argument at home, I was sent away. I thought it would be my end because it was my nest of protection, but it was the opportunity one needed to grow. Unfortunately, in the hardest way, I had to take this push and wake up from my nightmare. Now I would have to fend for myself. Disconsolate, I sat on a bench in a square in front of a cafeteria. A stranger sat down next to me. There was no dialogue at first, but his expression was serene and concerned. He asked a simple question, "How are you?" I looked at him, and for the first time in weeks or months, I could give a slight smile, small but genuine. I remember he offered me a coffee and asked how I was. A simple conversation that made me feel seen. Sometimes small actions have a huge impact. A hug, a word of encouragement. I had coffee with that stranger who, in years, was one of the few people who showed me affection and humanity in that way, without interest, without judgment. I was truly impressed. The coffee friend invited me to join a support group. When he saw me, without saying anything, he already knew what I was going through. I thanked him for the invitation and was curious about this group. Participating in support groups was a turning point for me. Hearing stories similar to mine made me realize I wasn't alone. Sharing experiences brought relief and understanding. I began to see lights in the stories of others. And that's what I want to share with you. Even when everything seems lost, there's always a way. Every small victory counts. Sometimes, I would catch myself smiling when I remembered simple achievements, like getting out of bed and going for a walk. I was challenged by my own insecurities, the inner voice that said I wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve to be happy. But little by little, I began to silence it. I learned to recognize when it appeared and confront it. Social pressure was also overwhelming. Comparing myself to friends who were excelling in life made me feel even smaller. Why can't I do it? This question became a shadow, always behind me, whispering that I wasn't enough. And those moments of loneliness, the empty room, the heavy silence, days on end without anyone to talk to, these were the darkest moments where despair seemed to settle in. Once, a stranger on the street smiled at me, a simple gesture, but one that made me feel that there was still kindness in the world. This gave me a new boost to keep fighting. On social media, I saw people sharing their stories. This made me realize that vulnerability is powerful. By exposing our weaknesses, we connect with others on a deep level. And so, I found the courage to start sharing my own story. By changing the way I saw my experiences, I began to realize that every obstacle was an opportunity for growth. Life is not about avoiding falls, but about how we get up after them. I discovered that hobbies like writing and painting helped me express my emotions. Putting my feelings on paper brought me a freedom I didn't know. If you haven't found what makes you happy yet, keep searching. One of my biggest dreams is to travel and experience different cultures. This desire drives me. Whenever I feel lost, I can remember what I want to achieve, and that gives me the strength to keep going. And now I want to know from you, what motivates you to keep going? What makes you feel the shadow of doubt? How do you feed your light? Leave a comment below and share your story. Let's connect. In the next video, I'll share more of my story and how, step by step, I started finding small victories. Every step counts. I hope my experience can serve as a renewing fuel for you. Remember, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. You're not alone. A big hug, and see you soon. I'm here for you. There's always a light, even in the darkest moments. Every step you take towards that light is a victory. Don't give up.